I'd like to say good morning to my good friend Dan Gutierrez. How are you?
How you doing, Mr. Keller? I'm doing fine this morning.
I'm doing
Uh,
fine too. We're recording this on a rainy Thursday morning here in Sacramento, California. We'd like to welcome everybody, those of you who have been following the podcast and anybody who might be here for the very first time. This is the Intentional Living Podcast. And in this work, we concentrate on digging out the traumas left over from childhood and creating something new. And our inspiration for this podcast is a quote that we have used many times from the great Greek philosopher Socrates, who said, "The secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. Not on fighting the old, but building the new." And so, what we do here is we talk about the intentional living process, the accountability practice that was developed by our mentor, John Donovan, and find out how we can apply that to creating the lives that we want to live today without ignoring or rushing over what happened in the past, but using what happened in the past to leverage something new. And one of the things that we want to talk about today, Dan, is what does it mean to feel safe? I mean, one of the foundational needs of every living creature, every living organism, from a virus all the way to a human being, is to be safe and secure in its life. And particularly for human beings, given how complex we are, uh, safety is really critical. And we're going to find it, even if it turns out to develop into something warped or counterproductive, aren't we?
Absolutely. Um, Safety, one of the fundamental requirements, excuse me, one of the fundamental requirements of uh, human beings is to create an environment for themselves that is safe, creating a safe environment for the inner world, the inner parts of our being allows growth and restoration and nurturing and rebuilding and restoring our body to work better. Um, that's the logistics of it. And sometimes we growing up in our family of origin, our culture has we have safety confused with other things. And for me, I have safety confused with abandonment, rejection, criticism, and what I find myself creating are those things because I believe. I don't know if I actually believe it, um, but there's a part of me, my subconscious mind has been programmed that safety means hypervigilance. Safety means don't trust. Safety means I have to figure it out all by myself. And that is not, as an adult with wisdom and an understanding, that doesn't promote restoration, and growth. It keeps me in an adrenalized state, which in turn keeps me in cortisol, all these stress hormones, which in turn negate my health, put further stress on my body. Uh, I develop different habits. I learn bad habits. I won't say bad habits, but I say habits that don't support growth and restoration. I develop the ability or the desire to consume food to regulate my emotional body so I feel safe. I might even pick up an addiction to substances in an attempt to create safety in my body, to not feel that pain, to not be under stress. That's just an overview.
Well, you know what?
So,
What might be good to explore a little bit here, especially for somebody here listening to this for the first time, is how do we know? And maybe you were going to go there, and I interrupted you, but how do we know? What does safety feel like? What's the feeling that we have? So, for example, you talk about I might I might eat certain foods that make me feel safe, or I might ingest drugs or alcohol because it creates some kind of sense. How would you characterize that feeling that we're looking for to that it at the very least mimics safety, even if it isn't authentically safe?
Um, for me, it's the absence of uh, my hypervigilance. It's the state of being calm or perceived calmness, um, having my worries and troubles disappear. So I feel safe, so I can enjoy my life.
So like a state of relaxation, a state of comfort. Does that does that
Yeah, an absence of disease.
yeah.
Um, um, and for me, I had to have the awareness that I don't know what safety was or
Right,
safety
exactly.
is. I that I had safety confused with stress, hypervigilance, fear, mistrust. Um,
Yeah, but wasn't isn't it fair to say that that was necessary given whatever the emotional environment that little Dan found himself in as a kid, or little Marty, or anybody watching here? We had to be safe, right? Is that an option for a little kid?
um, that's where the child you know safety means attachment, continued attachment. Because as a child, you can't survive without having some form of attachment. So,
What do you mean by attachment?
um, I was born to be attached. I was born attached with the umbilical cord, and as soon as they cut the umbilical cord, I tried to reestablish a connection via Wi-Fi, right? Wireless connection, which is develops in the relationship between a caregiver and a child, and through facial expressions, tonality. Um, that's how the little child gets a sense of feeling safe, getting his needs met, learns what safety is. And that can be a myriad of different things. Um, like I said, I have safety confused with hypervigilance, mistrust. I've got to do everything myself. Hence, I can't trust people. So I never
So does
get
that
the
mean
experience of that.
so does that mean that the when you as a little kid in your natural human configuration sought attachment with your mom, it it wasn't optimum. Let's put it that way. It was something else that generated the response that you just described.
Yeah, each child comes into the world with these needs to form an attachment, and whatever that instinct, that drive, gets met by the family of origin, and the child doesn't know one way or another. Um, but it needs to know that it has to conform or it has to maintain that attachment, so it accepts what happens. That 1 year old kid can't say, "Hey, you guys are screwed up. You're a bunch of, you don't get my needs met. You put me down. You yell and scream at me. You abuse me." Doesn't have that capacity. Its drive is to survive and to maintain that attachment. And if nothing gets updated, which it usually doesn't, as we grow older, um, then it's programmed in, and as we move through our lives, we have love and attachment confused with rejection, abandonment, and pain, and we wonder why we have these relationships that don't succeed, that aren't fulfilling. um, that's where I'm at, is the awareness that safety is the goal. And based on my experience, is that when I feel safe, I can do these things. I can have the opportunity to learn. I You don't learn when you're when you're in a highly adrenalized state, because that's not a priority. Action, movement in the moment, decision making, or freezing in the moment is is what I'm focused on doing.
So that's
I
what we
don't,
learn, that we learn those things rather than the things that can make a rich and fulfilling life.
right. Um, and that's the topic here is that for me to learn and apply the tools that I do have, I need to create a safe environment for myself and others so I can be around others and have them teach me, right?
Right.
I feel trusting enough to learn from other people. I allow myself that vulnerability, which is opposite of uh, you know, safety. Vulnerability is not feeling safe. Exposed is not feeling safe. Trusting others is exposing myself to possibility of harm. As a
Well,
human,
unless I'm in a secure attachment relationship, right?
which is really hard to create or be a part of, if I don't have the acknowledgement that I don't know what safety is.
Exactly.
And the only way, well, I don't want to say only way. One of the ways that I can learn or create an awareness that I don't come from um, a position of trust and safety is that I can look back at my life and see what is manifested in my life. Uh, Pay attention to the experiences I've had. Look at my mental state. You know, am I happy? Or am I always, in a fearful state? If I do, I live in anxiety where my nervous system is always on high alert. Um, I've been fortunate enough uh, to have this capacity, and through the development and use of the accountability tree, I've gleaned these insights to what's going on, being accountable for the results in my life without blame or judgment has given me a reference point, a portfolio of information and resources I can look at and see with eyes, as adult eyes. I can see that I've never, I married I had love confused with fear. I married a girl that I was afraid of. Now, at 60 years old, I understand what that butterfly feeling was. It's not love, by the way. That's my body. That's my body shutting off the blood flow to my stomach because it believes it's in a fight or flight situation, and we don't need to digest food. We need to be ready for it. So I married a woman that I was afraid of. That's what I've learned over time.
And you
And
didn't know it at the time. That's what we want to
well,
help people
no,
listening to
I,
this.
I
These things are all subconscious experiences that show up as physical manifestations, emotion,
correct.
feeling.
So I married a woman that I was afraid of, which was an exact replica of my family of origin. I was afraid of my mother, and I had love confused with fear.
And so you found yourself attracted, ironically, to the fear energy, even though that's not really what love is. But you didn't know as a kid because it
No,
goes all the way back to what you said about attachment. We can't we can't not attach.
correct.
But if that attachment is not healthy or secure, then we're still gonna mold ourselves to that experience, and that would becomes how we look for that in our adult lives.
Yes. Subconsciously, I have this drive to to match the family of origin energy, body chemistry, energy
Right.
in my current relationships. That's because that's the I have love confused with, or I have attachment confused with that energy. And sometimes, like I said, I've been fortunate to have this process, and over time, it's come to that awareness. You know, I have attachment confused with fear. And it's like, okay, now that I have awareness around that, what is it that I do want? I want to create safety in my life. And this is the adult seeking, this is me as the adult seeking to be taught what safety truly means. And the only way I'm going to discover that is not only, but the way I choose to discover that is I create intentions. I intend to be safe and pay attention to what happened. And I let the universe manifest itself. And I keep repeating to myself, I intend to be safe. And that's how I learn. I create a new experience, and that becomes my default setting. Safety now equals kindness, compassion, understanding, acceptance, trustworthiness. Um, and then I slowly recreate. I keep going back to safety 101, and I take the course over and over until until there's sufficient wisdom, a different experience that happens, and then the subconscious learns that safety, anytime it smells a hint of abandonment and abuse and neglect and criticism, it understands that that's not safety. And
So the
it's
good
like,
news here you're saying is that this is particular for the newcomer listening here, that regardless of our uh, draw toward anxiety, or in the case that you were talking about, our draw to people who help us recreate that family of origin energy environment, we don't have to be stuck with that. We have choices here, and we have
right,
methods by which we can transfer or transcend that and mold something new or invite something new in.
right.
Could you talk a little bit about? I know we cover this regularly in this podcast, but just a little bit about how that works. What, the accountability tree, and how do we use that to create safety?
It's called the accountability tree because when I become all I'm asking myself or anyone else to do is to state the truth about my situation where I find myself at the present moment. I own the results that are in my life. And when I state the truth without blame or judgment, there's an experience, there's an embodied experience that happens. And it's described as an emotional experience, but it's an in-body. Your whole body, the experience happens. When I state the truth about myself, is that I have love confused with neglect, abandonment, and rejection. There's a resonance in my body. That's me stating the truth. I have that experience. It can be instantaneous. I might not even be aware that it's happening. And sometimes I may have a huge expression. I might tear up, I might cry, I might sob. All are whether I realize it or not, or I have a powerful experience, I'm doing the process. I can't do the process wrong. Each time I go through the process, I heal a portion of it. So when I'm in that embodied experience, I take a deep breath and then I ask myself, based on what I just experienced, what is the wisdom that is there for me? And a lot of times it jumps out at you rather quickly. Other times it's just there and it may not have any energy at this point in time, but I ask myself, what do I want to experience? What is it that I want my future to hold? What is the life that I want to have? And then I ask myself, what quality will support me in that? And for me, it's like I intend to be safe. I intend to be safe. I don't know what that looks like, but then again, I'm going back to I've enrolled in Safety 101. All I got to do is show up. Somebody will teach me based on how I'm feeling. Do I like what I'm feeling? Is this what safety is? I intend to have more of this. I feel good right now. People aren't judging me. Maybe that's what safety is. Okay, I intend to feel safe. I intend to experience life in a non in a manner that's non-judging. I intend to create a world of acceptance and see what happens. And repeat as often as necessary based on what I'm learning. Do I like it when people accept me? Does it feel funny? Stay in the feeling. Let my body guide me because it knows more than my mental or my mind does. But they work in unison. They're not separate entities. My head is attached to this thing I call the body, but it's all a part of it. It's like saying that my arm is separated from the rest of me. It's not. It's part of me. That's the embodied experience. If I stick myself with a pin in my hand, the whole body reacts. Everything reacts. It's not separate. So that's the process is to continually own my truth, own the results that are in my life so I can build a storehouse or a file so I can look at it, recognize the pattern, and in that pattern is to be the wisdom that gives me the information that I've lived a life that is not safe. I mean, I remember in I don't know 5 6 years ago, I used to always say, "Well, everybody does that. That's everybody's experience. Why am I unique?" That's me trying to struggle against the programming. The programming is giving me an option so I don't focus in on what I'm doing or what I want to do. Well, if everybody does it, then why do I got to do it? I'm not unique. Well, yes, I am. And not everybody grew up in the environment that I did. What is it I want? I want to come to a greater understanding of myself and how I function. Okay. And slowly but surely, based on the results, continuing to own the results that show up in my life. I'm afraid, I'm anxious, I'm fearful, I'm distrusting. Those all are markers for not being safe. And not feeling safe creates disease. It creates terrible relationships, loneliness, which in turn creates more body chemicals, cortisol, fear. It's a magnificent process given the right programming, and that's what I'm as the person sits in front of you. I'm become a head programmer and bottle washer and dishwasher. I'm assuming that role in my life, and that's I intend to be safe.
The irony of the what you just said is that we've always been the programmer. We've just been unconscious, and now we're claiming consciousness. And so that's why I like the notion of living intentionally. Intentionality requires consciousness, presence, awareness, so that those things that felt like compulsions, like being attracted to someone who generates fear for me, um, no longer prevail because now I've intentionally set out, I intend to feel safe, I intend to feel happy, I intend to feel peaceful, I intend to feel comfortable in my own skin, whatever it is. Those are the things that we're now, as you said, we're reprogramming ourselves to have those experiences rather than the ones that we generated when we were little kids and had no conscious choice.
Right.
There's a couple things that I want to share with because we're winding down here in time. We talked earlier about attachment, and Dan and I have several podcasts where we talk about attachment in great detail. So if you'd like to learn more about that, please check those out. Also, Dan, you brought to our attention a couple of weeks ago the work of Lisa Feldman Barrett on essentially the chemistry of emotions. And one of the reasons why we have to repeat these things over and over and over again is because of the way these things became lodged in our mind, our brain rather. Because as you said earlier, mind, brain, body, they're all one thing. And so if my neurology, my neurological structure of my brain has been organized around this earlier concept of safety or this earlier feeling sense of safety, then it's going to take more than saying an intention one time to reprogram everything in there. And
Right.
so part of the as you were saying, we may need to say this over and over and over again for some time, but I think we both can testify that it works, that at some point in time, the the old programming gets rewritten and it produces these feeling states that we say we want. I intend to feel happy. I intend to feel peaceful. I intend to feel fearless. Whatever the words are, everyone's going to create his or her own, like you said earlier, words that signify the states of being that we want. But I just wanted to point out that part of the challenge that we have is that it seems stubborn initially. It seems difficult to deal with because those old habits don't just go away overnight.
Yeah. They're survival mechanisms, and
Exactly.
that's nature at its finest. It got the message. This is important to your survival, and any deviation from this, you will die.
Exactly.
And so you got we have to create the new survival mechanism, the thriving mechanism. And so I can have health, growth, and restoration of my body, which in turn creates an internal state of calm, well-being. My body has time to regenerate itself, heal itself, which in turn changes the emotional state that I experience.
And
If I
like you
get
said,
enough sleep,
yeah.
that changes my emotional and my outlook and my perception of the world. I
And like you
feel different.
And like you said at the top of the podcast, once all that shifts, now we're free to go and create a new life. We're great. We're free to have an adventure. We're free to
Right.
explore without feeling worried that something's going to happen. We're liberated and we can thrive, as you said.
Right. Um, what used to terrify me now, fear, anxiety, the feeling of stress, rejection, um, the perception of what those are has changed. And now when I see them, or when I notice them, I see them as tools to create my future. They're to be explored and nurtured because there's still wisdom there for me to understand myself so I can create the world I want.
Exactly.
There,
And
and it goes back to the one of our principles that there's nothing wrong. Life happens for me, not to me. The only thing that I've done, life hasn't changed at all. It's just my ability or my perception of the information that I'm experiencing is run through a different model now, a different process. And that has become a choice. And there's nothing wrong. Life happens for me, not to me. Um, I'm always getting what I want. If I don't like it, I have the capacity to create the change now, which creates a sense of safety in me. That's empowering. And being empowered creates a sense of safety because I have the capacity to change. I'm not stuck. I don't have to live this way forever. Oh my God.
so
I
it
can,
creates, what I'm hearing you say, it also creates a sense of freedom.
Yeah, my ability to choose has a quality or is a quality of safety.
Right. Well, we've come to the end of our time together, and this is a powerful conversation, and I appreciate your bringing that up and clarifying for our listeners or our watchers how to create a sense of safety, how we all can create that, how we created one when we were little kids, unconsciously, and usually if we had insecure attachment of any kind with our mom and caregivers, then we would get safety confused with fear, hypervigilance, stress, anxiety, those energies. And then we'll just be attracted to that for the rest of our lives unless we become aware, conscious of these things inside of ourselves. And that's what the accountability tree allows us to do, to just name them, tell the truth. This is what I feel. I'm attracted to anxiety. I love being anxious. And in the clarity of that truth, no blame or judgment in the statement of it, we then can create something new. I intend to feel at ease. I intend to feel calm. I intend to love myself just the way I am, whatever it is, and create safety that way, this new sense of safety. Just want to let everybody know that we do this work in group, and uh, these groups are facilitated. Dan facilitates a meeting on Mondays. I facilitate one on Wednesdays. Our colleague Rodney Jones facilitates Thursdays, and our mentor and inventor of this process, John Donovan, facilitates meetings on Saturdays. And after the podcast's over, there'll be information on how to join there. They're all on Zoom, but they're at different times of the day and have different Zoom addresses. So just check those out, and we invite you to come to a meeting and learn how to work this, create a sense of safety for yourself. This is available to every human being. So, with that, any last words, Dan, before we wrap up?
Uh, I intend to create a world of acceptance, compassion, connection, and safety. Thanks.
Support you in that.
I know you
Thanks,
do.
thanks, my good friend, and we'll see you in the next one.
Absolutely. Thanks, Marty.